What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Untitled Chapter channel. I'm AJ Gels. Guys, welcome back to the weekly show. I really wish I had some sort of intro or sounder or something to play before we get into this. Either way, if you're new to this program, basically what I do, I sit here and I read articles, give my opinions, my hot takes and whatnot on stuff that happened this week in gaming news. There are two big stories that happened that I'm not going to be talking in this episode. One of those is what is going down with EA and Visceral. It's not because I don't want to talk about it. The article that I want to cover is a Polygon article, and it is a really fucking A, it's really long, and B, it would just make this video too long, and I also have some stuff I have to do soonish, so I'm going to be doing that in a separate video either Sunday or Monday. It all kind of comes down to that. And same with the whole Naughty Dog sexual I'm trying to remember. Was it a sexual assault, or was it, I think it was sexual harassment. I'm not sure. I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but there's something going on with Naughty Dog. That one I need to read up more on it, and I just was not as prepared as I should have been for that. But either way, both of those will get their own videos Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, in that span of time. Also, the show usually goes live on Saturdays, but I'm doing this on Friday because I have homecoming for my university tomorrow. I'm doing the parade with my radio station, as well as I'm running the soundboard for the football game back at the station. So I'm going to be busy most of the day, so can't do this tomorrow. So either way, we get to hang out and have some fun. Now, I feel like was there one other thing? I don't think so. Let's just get right into the news. Nintendo Switch was the top-selling console in the U.S. in September. Article Seth G. Macy, IGN. Article reads, Nintendo took this top spot for September hardware sales with strong showings from both the Switch and the 3DS line. Switch has surpassed 2 million units sold in the U.S. since launch, and when combined with sales from the 3DS product family, as well as the recently released Super NES Classic, Nintendo hardware accounted for, and I quote, 2/3 of the month's totals. End quote, hardware sold. Mario, I'm not sure if it's Mario and or Mario Plus. I think it's whatever. Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle debuted at number 7 on the top 10 best-selling games for the month, followed by Metroid Samus Returns for 3DS at number 8, and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at the number 10 position. Switch was also best-selling console for August 2017 and has been the top-selling console for 5 of the 7 months since its release. In late July, Nintendo reported worldwide sales numbers for the Switch had reached 4.7 million units. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had sold 3.54 million copies at that time. The full public-facing NPD report doesn't release until later today, so it looks like Nintendo is quite happy with the results, with Switch stocks seeming to have stabilized and the holiday season fast approaching. It is interesting to see how things shake out when 2017. It will be interesting to see how things shake out when 2017 is all said and done. Note, this article did come out yesterday. And I don't have those MPD numbers. But either way, good for Nintendo. I'm glad the Switch is doing well. Again, I didn't think it would. I thought it would be kind of like a flash in the pan sort of thing, but apparently it's not. It's holding up well. Hell, to the point that I want to Switch. And now we're actually moving on to our next couple of stories, which are also Nintendo Switch stories, are things that make me really want a Switch now. Moving on. Article on Eurogamer by Vic Hood. Doom gets November release date for Nintendo Switch. Developer id Software. I finally got that confirmed. It is id Software, not ID Software. I've been pronouncing that incorrectly all this time. Developer id Software has announced demon blasting shooter Doom will launch on Nintendo Switch on 10th of November. Nintendo announced last month Doom would be coming to the Switch alongside another id Software IP, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. Doom on Switch will feature the full single-player campaign with all difficulty modes, including Ultra Nightmare mode. Players will also have the opportunity to choose arcade mode, allowing you to replay the entire game with a time and score attack. The Switch version will also include multiplayer modes such as Team Deathmatch and Capture the Flag, 18 maps, and all previously released DLC content. Pretty much that was just a nice short article giving us when this game's coming out. I really like Doom. when it came. Geez, Doom was this year's, but no, Doom wasn't this year. Doom was last year. Was it? Yeah, Doom was last year. What's wrong with me? Why did I think it was this year? Was it? No, maybe. Yeah, Doom was from 2016. It's right there on Amazon. God damn, I'm weird. I don't know why I was thinking it was this year. Either way, I really, 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 really like this year's Doom, or last year's Doom. Jesus Christ. Hell of a game. Really great slide and glide shooter. Just the gore, the violence, everything about it was spot on. I can't remember if I scored it. Either way, if I had to score it, 9 out of 10. Damn good. Easily a place on the top 10 of 2016. And I can't wait for Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, coming up actually next week. And I will actually a week from today, and I will be playing it on that day. You can come check out the Let's Play and all that. Real quick, just I knew I was forgetting something in the intro. I provide timestamps of every article I talk about down in the description, along with links to every article if you want to go read them for yourself or go get lost or whatever. Remember, it's always nice to these sites. I just aggregate news that I just pull in news stories and I read them and comment on them and give my takes on issues. The writers in these companies and all them, they do a lot of the real work and the writing and all that. So please go visit their sites and give them ad rev and whatnot. Moving on, more Nintendo Switch news. Nintendo reportedly encouraging mature titles on Switch. Yep, my hope, Corrigan. Nintendo may be encouraging producers of more mature and violent games to bring their content over to Switch. According to the report by the Wall Street Journal, Nintendo appears to be interested in increasing the number of mature titles on its newest console to remove the stigma that its hardware is just a family-friendly console. Now, I'll comment after this. Takuya Aizu, I think that's correct, chief executive of Inti Creates, the studio behind the scantily clad shooter Galgun 2, said he initially assumed Nintendo wouldn't be interested in having their adult-oriented game on the Switch. And I quote, "I thought it wouldn't be possible to release such a game for the Switch, but surprisingly, Nintendo gave me positive feedback," end quote. Aizu told the WSJ. There we go. See, I think that's something that's always been kind of holding me back with Nintendo consoles, is just their lack of nothing against Mario and all the traditional Nintendo IPs. It's just there's something about those games that just have always shouted childish to me. I mean, there is that nostalgia factor, but there's something that just, it's little and it's campy and here's this and yeah, maybe there's a story, but in all honesty, I just couldn't care. But I really like this idea, especially, like I said, we know that Doom's coming, Wolfenstein 2's coming. I'm so curious, when they say adult or mature content, is that like more like we're gonna see more stuff like No More Heroes? It's like more truly violent and M-rated games. Or are we going past M and that maybe we're seeing like adult content on the Switch? I highly doubt it's that. I bet it's M-rated. My mind's in the gutter. But other than I'm trying to think what the games were. Other than No More Heroes, I think it was called Red Steel. It was a sword fighting game. No More Heroes, Red Steel. I think some of the Call of Duty games ended up on the Wii. I think that was the biggest problem with the Wii, was that it got stigmatized as this family-friendly platform that they just never did anything with. So that's my stance on that. Other developers are reportedly mirroring Aizu's statements, with an unnamed executive at an external developer claiming that Nintendo's attitude towards mature titles, and I quote, was passive until now, but that is no longer the right word to describe its stance today, end quote. I think they're trying to pull in more mature titles. I also think what they're doing with the Switch that I think is a really good idea from Nintendo is they're trying to pull in more third-party developers, or maybe not even just third-party, but just developers who aren't tied directly in with Nintendo. I think that's another big thing with Nintendo. It's maybe it's not necessarily that I'm saying they were childish, but it's just It's just that everything that Nintendo did all sort of fit itself tonally. I mean, even No More Heroes isn't some bleak, depressing. It's adult, but it's still comedy. If you've played it, it spoofs things. It rags on everything. It breaks the fourth wall. It's dirty humor and all that. But for the most part, Nintendo had a niche kind of audience and genre that a lot of its games played into. So I think with the Switch, we're seeing a broader grouping of not only titles but types of games and genres and tone and everything. So I think it makes the Switch much more marketable to a wider gaming audience that I think kind of lets it play a little bit more on par with what the PlayStation and the Xbox can do, because the PlayStation and Xbox both have their own campy titles, but then they also have their more serious, dramatic titles and their adult action titles. And I think this is a good business move by Nintendo. Nintendo was reportedly working to diversify its audience with nightclub atmosphere on January's Switch presentation, which Nintendo executive Shinya Takahashi told the WSJ was intended to attract a grown-up Western audience. Nintendo has also expressed a desire to reach a wide variety of playstyles and audiences, with the company noting that, and I quote, "As with books, television, and movies, different content is meant for different audiences," end quote. Nintendo appears to be working to fix its third-party problem on Switch. In fact, Rockstar is bringing LA Noire to Switch, and Bethesda is not only releasing Skyrim, but also Doom and Wolfenstein 2 on the Switch. Right there, I think, right there at the end, it touched on exactly what I was saying, is that diversifying your genre and your content really is good for your company and good for sales. And right there at the bottom, I mean, we're seeing LA Noire come to the Switch, Doom and Wolfenstein. I still say LA Noire was great. I don't know about anyone else, but I liked it. Moving on to another Eurogamer article. CD Projekt Red, this approach to making games is not for everyone. Article by Robert Purchase. I can never pronounce this guy's name. Some recent team leader level departures from Cyberpunk 2077 led to speculation there was troubles in Paradise. Paradise began sounding worse and worse the more CD Projekt Red company reviews on employee feedback site Glassdoor I read. Evidently, the groundswell of negativity and whispering rose to such a level CD Projekt Red felt inclined to wade in. Co-founder Marcin Iwinski, is that correct? And studio manager Adam Badowski today issued a statement regarding regarding morale here at the studio. We normally avoid commenting in company reviews on spaces like Glassdoor, but this time around, especially in light of the fact we haven't communicated anything about Cyberpunk 2077 for a long time and saw some gamers getting worried about the project. We'd like to elaborate on a few things. It boils down to CD Projekt Red. Oh, I'm sorry, that was all a quote, my bad. It boils down to CD Projekt Red being a lot larger than it used to be, twice the 200 size of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt development, and having an uncompromising stance about what it wants to make. And I quote, "Every role-playing game we ever developed seemed impossible to achieve at the moment we set out to create it. But even if something feels impossible, it doesn't..." God, I hate the font and the size of the print on Eurogamer. God, it makes it really hard to read. Where was I? It doesn't mean it was. But even if something feels impossible, it doesn't mean it is. As it turns out, most often things are perfectly possible. They just require a lot of faith, commitment, and spirit, the statement said. This approach to making games is not for everyone. It often requires a conscious effort to reinvent the wheel, even if you personally think it already works like a charm. But you know what? We believe reinventing the wheel every frickin' time is what makes a better game. It's what creates innovation and what makes it possible for us to say we've worked really hard on something and we think it's worth your hard-earned cash. If you make games, God damn it, if you make games with a close enough is good enough attitude, you'll end up in a comfort zone and you know where the magic happens. Cyberpunk 2077 is progressing as planned, but we are taking our time. In this case, the silence is the cost of making a great game, end quote. I'm not worried. CD Projekt Red never disappoints me. They make phenomenal games, and they're slow to make their games. From what I'm guessing is that they brought in people who've worked on other titles for other studios, but I think CD Projekt Red works differently. But I think the fact that they work differently shows off how I think what they churn out shows that what they do works. And I'm going to side with CD Projekt on this one. Screw it. Let's read the statement. Hey there. If you're following news related to CD Projekt Red, you might have recently stumbled on information regarding morale here at the studio. We normally avoid commenting on company reviews on spaces like Glassdoor, but this time around, especially in light of the fact that we haven't communicated anything about Cyberpunk 2077 for a long time and saw some gamers getting worried about the project, we'd like to elaborate on a few things. First off, we'd like to talk about the departures in 2015 when we released The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. We were over 200 developers strong, and that was the core crew of the studio. Since then, we've almost doubled the headcount, and we're still hiring. Do people leave? Sure they do. We always wish them all the best and respect both their decisions and the feedback they gave us as the reason for their departure. We also continuously working on making Red a good workplace for everyone, but we also have a set of values that constitutes what we are and how we do things. So does a departure, even a high-profile one, mean that the project is in danger? One would need to be very courageous to base the future of a AAA role-playing game of such scope on one person or a few people. Every role-playing game we ever developed seemed impossible to achieve at the moment we set out to create it. It took us 5 years to finish The Witcher 1. We had to make our own engine to complete The Witcher 2, Assassins of Kings, and we had to entirely reinvent the way we made games to deliver an open world for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. When we start down the road creating something, we know the destination, and we're sure of one thing: even if something feels impossible, it doesn't mean it is. And as it turns out, most often things are perfectly possible. They just require a lot of faith, commitment, and spirit. The approach to making games is not for everyone. This approach to making games is not for everyone. It often requires a conscious effort to reinvent the wheel. We've read that up top. Creates innovation and makes people. It creates innovation and makes it possible for us to say we've worked really hard on something and we think it's worth your hard-earned cash. If you make games with a close enough, good enough attitude, you end up in a comfort zone, and you know what happens. Cyberpunk 2077 is progressing as planned, but we are taking our time. In this case, silence is the cost of making a great game. As always, many thanks for being so engaged in what we do. It shows us it's all worth the hours we put in. Yours, I cannot pronounce Polish names. I'm not. When I first saw the story, I was thinking this was going to be more of the whole, it's studios pushing developers, doing crunch time and overworking and everything. Because that's one of those things that I say is a problem, but at the same, just because there are certain there are at a certain level, it goes beyond. This is a harsh work environment, which I think making video games is, because it's not only creative, but you know what I mean? It's a creative field and all that. I think it's a kind of a grueling thing to work on, and it's not clean cut hours. But at the same time, there's a certain level of crunch and everything that doesn't really work. Totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I just rambled there for a couple seconds. Article continues, which all sounds ravishingly heroic and exactly what I want from a game company I really want to play. No compromise. But it comes at a human cost. We shouldn't forget that. I spoke anonymously to people who had worked at CD Projekt Red in the past, and they pointed to negative Glassdoor reviews as being accurate of the situation there. In essence, people were feeling overworked, underpaid, and as though there was little organization or they weren't being heard. Of course, extreme Glassdoor reviews on the other side of the scale, or the other, either very positive or very negative, should be taken, blah, blah, blah. Overall rating of 3.1 out of 5 stars. But these were often people who had been there less than a year and had come from other big studios organized in other ways, maybe better ways. How do you convince all of these new people that your brute force perhaps way of facing the tidal wave of work ahead is the best way. The diehard veterans will be with you until the end, but the less devoted newcomer, there's bound to be friction. But such as CD Projekt Red's new burden, life in the limelight will be tough. Cyberpunk 2077 will not be released before 2018. CD Projekt Red has previously said, if I were a gambling man and I once backed 7 horses in a row who all came last, so I'm not. I'd expect a release sometime. Yeah, I'd agree, 2019. But back to what I was saying, all in all, I think that is an aspect of it. I think, like I said, it's just you have the whole thing of studios pushing crunch time and all that, which I think is its own issue, but this doesn't seem like what this is. Like they said here, feeling overworked, underpaid, and all that, that's a personal decision. When it comes to overworked and underpaid, it kind of comes down to your interaction with the employer. And if you disagree, you can leave. You can say, I felt like I did more work than I was paid to do. But again, they decide what to pay you and you agreed to work. So it's one of those kind of weird sort of things. But the one that I thought that I think this writer did a great job of talking about is the fact that a lot of these people who are leaving like this worked at other studios who did things differently. And they said maybe these companies were put together, or their brute force way of whatever. I would sit and say maybe from a employee standpoint, for the work environment standpoint, maybe the other companies were set up correctly. But when it comes down to making a kick-ass game, which CD Projekt Red seems to do on a consistent basis, I think CD Projekt Red does what it has to, does what it should be doing. And I say this as a consumer of video games, a man who loves video games, and someone who loves the studio and wants to see them continue to pump out great games. I think the studio does what it has to and does what it should be doing to meet that end. Now, if you think you can work in that, go there and work. If you don't think you can work in that, don't go there. That's my thing. Nobody's forcing you to work there. I understand a job's a job, and sometimes you have to do whatever. Again, I'm getting into territory that isn't my forte, but that's my stance. I don't think CD Projekt Red is being abusive or anything. I think CD Projekt Red is doing what they have to do to put out good games. I really hope I didn't. I think I rambled a little bit there. I tried to steer it back on. I'm sorry. Moving on. Next article, IGN by Hope Corrigan. Xbox head doesn't like paying for platform exclusive DLC. Head of Xbox Phil Spencer says he doesn't like idea of paying for. Doesn't like the idea. Come on, how does this shit get by editors? I'm sorry, that really bugs me. Says he doesn't like the idea of paying for platform exclusive content. In an interview with GameSpot at the Brazil Game Show, Spencer exclaimed his views on the practice, and I quote, "People always knock me on this. I've been on record. I don't love the idea or practice of us paying so other platforms can't play or use a certain gun in a game or do a certain level," end quote. He said, I know, and I quote, "I know I say that and Xbox history, DLC, exclusivity windows with Call of Duty, I understand the fingers are pointed right back to Xbox. I can be who I am. It's not the best PR answer, but I don't like it," end quote, Spencer added. Spencer addressed Microsoft's arrangement with Bluehold to bring the record-breaking PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds to Xbox One first, as well as the question as to if when the game will come to PlayStation 4. People ask, and I quote, people ask, when's that coming to PlayStation? I've got a deal working with Bluehole to build the very best version of PUBG. Spencer said, "That's where I am focused. Right now, we're helping that game comes." Okay, right. I'm sorry. Right now, we're helping that game come to console. Sorry, something wasn't making sense in my head. Our focus is on making the best games possible, end quote. The Xbox executive also discussed Studio MDHR's Cuphead, which is 100% which is 100% Microsoft exclusive because of the company's investment in the project. And I quote, "When there are games that come along, Cuphead is a good example, and the team had certain ambitions about what they wanted to go do, and together with me, we wanted to invest more," end quote, Spencer explained. And I quote, "We saw more opportunity, and what that turned into was us having an exclusive game on our platform. That's a game that probably wouldn't have happened the way it did if we didn't invest the way we did," end quote, he said. To me, that feels a little bit like I don't want to say a cop-out, but I understand what he means by, hey, we put the money into this one. Yeah, it's going to be an exclusive. I think he's talking about like what Microsoft or Xbox did with Rise of the Tomb Raider. It's one of those that, as a gamer, I think that's what he's trying to say, is that I don't like the fact that we pay for games and we do exclusivity on this stuff, or certain DLC. I don't like it, but I think from a business standpoint, it makes sense. I think that's what he's getting at, but I have no clue. I just brought that up just because I thought that might prompt some interesting discussion. If anybody wants to shoot me their take, you can do that in the comments or through any of the social media in the description below. This is something a site I usually don't use. I found this completely by accident a little bit before I did this video. Windows Central article, Dan Thorpe Lancaster, that's a name. Madden NFL free to play this weekend on Xbox One. Also, go Tommy Brady. He's my quarterback in fantasy football. Kick ass this week. I could use a win. I am 1-5. I'm not doing well. If you've been waiting to dive into the latest Madden title, you'll get a chance to do just that for free on Xbox One this weekend. Microsoft has announced that Madden NFL 18 will be free to play from October 19th through October 22nd. Unlike a most of its recent free play dates. Editors, come on. Microsoft says this one won't be restricted to Xbox Live Gold members. All Xbox One players will get to check out Madden NFL 18's online features, including Madden's long shot story mode. Xbox Live Gold subscribers, meanwhile, can jump into online play with Madden Ultimate Team squads and more. If you decide you want to pick up the game, Microsoft says it will be on sale at 33% off throughout the free play weekend. As usual, all of your in-game purchase progress will carry over if you decide to buy in. Madden 18 will go free starting today, October 19th, and 9 p.m. PT, 12 a.m. Eastern, and will remain so through Sunday, October 22nd at 11:59 p.m. PT and 2:59 a.m. Eastern Time. I think at least pick it up and play Longshot. Longshot was actually pretty fun. If it's free, you can shoot through Longshot, I'd say, in a weekend. It's really fun. As far as like the actual gameplay of Madden 18, I was disappointed with it. Something about it didn't work right with me. Maybe it's been patched, and a lot of those problems that I was having got fixed. But I like last year's model from a game. I like last year's game from a gameplay perspective. But check it out. Longshot was a lot of fun. Moving on to our final article this week. This made me laugh my ass off. UK lawmaker gets involved in loot box controversy. A member of the UK article by ONS Good, Polygon. A member of the United Kingdom's Parliament has opened an inquiry into the loot box model of microtransactions in console games on behalf of a constituent who asked him about the legality of the practice. Daniel Zeichner, a Labour MP from Cambridge, posted two questions to Karen Bradley, the UK Secretary of State for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. Zeichner asked what steps she will take to, and I quote, to protect vulnerable adults and children from illegal gambling in-game gambling and loot boxes within computer games, end quote. Okay, one. Well, actually, I guess the whole point I'm going to make here is in-game gambling and loot boxes are two different things. As far as I understand them to be, they're two different things. His second question was specific to the jurisdiction of the Isle of Man, which has a stronger legal code specifically addressing, and I quote, illegal and in-game gambling and loot boxes, and whether such protections could be extended to the nation on the whole. Zeichner's formal questioning comes on behalf of a constituent who wrote in Reddit's R Games forum that he met with Zeichner about the subject. And I quote, the goal here is to see the UK's existing gambling regulations applied to loot boxes. Why? And, God, user Art Funkel said, the Isle of Man is a British territory which explicitly defines in-game items as money's worth in its gambling laws. Really? It's currently the only place in the world that does so. Yeah, for a end quote. Yeah, it does that for a reason. I mean, I'm sorry. I am dumbfounded here. This seems absolutely ridiculous. I'll finish this out before I start talking. Let's see here. Where did we leave off? The recent launches of Forza Motorsport 7 and Middle-earth: Shadow of War have made loot boxes a top-mind controversy in video gaming. Star Wars Battlefront 2's beta recently closed, and its uses of loot crates outraged fans enough that Electronic Arts responded, and I quote, the complete system was not in the beta and will continue to be tuned over time, end quote. It said, Shadow of War has gone so far as including a bonus ending to the story that, while it can be reached without spending money, is time-consuming to acquire. Oh, God, shut up! NBA 2K18 has been excoriated, but what the fuck, by its longtime fan base for the system of virtual currency and microtransaction in the game's My Career mode. The trend of microtransaction content has become enough of a red button issue that the game review aggregation site OpenCritics is now flagging titles that have this kind of paid content. All right, there's a few things here to break down. One, what NBA 2K18 is doing, as far from right there, I haven't played it yet, or probably won't actually ever play it. I don't like NBA games. I don't know why. I can't get into them like I can with football and baseball or FIFA. Either way, virtual currency. You see that in a lot of games, that you can either spend money, real world money, and get in-game currency, or you can get it through gameplay. Okay, right there, what they're talking about Shadow of War with the bonus ending. It's like what Batman Arkham Knight did with the Riddler trophies, except that one didn't have a way that you could just basically pay and speed up the process. Okay, is it? This is where I don't get people's outrage on this, because especially in Shadow of War, because this. You don't have to pay for it. Oh, well, it's time-consuming to acquire otherwise. Then pay for it. I thought that was the point of the game, was to sit and take a lot of time. Oh, well, it's just grinding. Well, so what? Play the game. It's fun. It's not. I mean, I don't know. Your idea of if it's tedious or not is a personal decision. But this whole concept that loot boxes and everything are all this outrage, I think is complete. I'm sorry, I'm calming down here. This whole stuff with loot boxes, I think, is ridiculous. Not saying people can't complain about it, not saying people can't not like it. It's like microtransactions. I generally don't care. As long as it's not giving people a distinct, massive advantage, I don't really care. As far as I can tell, what these microtransactions do is give people who don't have the time to spend in all this, it basically gives you faster progression. Okay. At some level, though, it doesn't give you the skills to compete with other. I just think this is a dumb controversy, and the fact, and to even add the fact that a freaking legislator in the UK they're trying to make this gambling. This has nothing to do with gambling, because just because the whole thing is we aren't betting on in-game things. Maybe we're playing a game to win something, but that's the point of a game. That's how most games are, when online games are. You play, and depending on how well you do, you get certain in-game currency or items or whatever. That's video games in general. It's not gambling. It's not I'm putting something up and you're putting something up. We play, the winner takes everything. That's not what it is. This is not vulnerable adults and children from illegal gambling and in-game gambling. Loot boxes are totally different. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, what? Hell, PUBG uses a loot crate system that either you can pay for or you earn. What? I'm just rambling here. I think this is absolutely ridiculous, and people are dumb. Though that's generally my opinion is that people are dumb, but I think that this is just super. Ugh. I don't know, guys. Tell me your thoughts. Am I under? Should I be more outraged about this? Am I not thinking of something through or whatever? Tell me in the comments, and I will change my mind. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. As always, Facebook, Twitter, the website, minds.com. Links, all that stuff is in the description below. Come back next week, same time. We'll be doing this. Like I said at the beginning, I'll be talking about the Visceral Games and EA stuff either over the next couple days, as well as the Naughty Dog sexual harassment thing over the next couple days, all that. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. I feel like there's something else, but I can't think of it. Until next time, I'm AJ Gels. This is the Untitled Gaming Channel. I'm out.